Hi, today I will work through the first half of the 2018 paper 1. It's a non-calculator paper. Please then try the follow-up questions and make sure you submit them on your class notebook. Okay, right, let's make a wee start. Number 1. You'll notice I'm going to just talk through this, okay, and I'll explain what I'm doing. No one really gave me much feedback on the last one, where we done it in silence. If you did think that was better, please let me know, okay? Right, okay, this one here, it's an addition. If it's an addition or subtraction of fractions, you must have a common denominator, okay? Which clearly we don't have here. 3 and 5 are not the same. So, before I do this one though, I would convert this first fraction, okay? Convert it, it's like what we call mixed numbers. So I'm going to convert it. 2 times 3, add on the 1. 6 add 1 is 7. So 2 1/3 can be written as 7/3. So we're going to do 7/3 add 4/5. And as I mentioned, we need a common denominator, okay? Common denominator, what do 3 and 5 both go into? A number that's divisible by 3 and 5 would be 15. Now, because we've changed both of them to 15 on the bottom, you need to change the top as well, okay? To work it out, remember what you're thinking is, well, 3 is now 15. It's been multiplied by 5, therefore. So you need to times the top by 5. 7 5s, 35. Okay? On the other side, the 5 is now a 15, so that's been multiplied by 3. 4 times 3 to get the top, 12. Okay, and now because we've got the common denominator, we can do a simple addition of the tops. 35 add 12 is 47. And that answer there is perfectly fine to leave it like that. Okay, that'll get you full marks. It can't be simplified down. However, if you want a wee bit of practice to convert it back into the mixed numbers, 47 over 15, 47 divided by 15, how many 15s are in 47? Well, you can get 3 15s in 47. 3 15s make 45 only. That means we have 2 left. 3 and 2 15s, okay? I'll just make sure that you realise clearly either of those two answers will get you full marks. You don't actually need to go on and do the final part, okay? That will get you full marks, the 47 over 15. Right, expand and simplify. So we're going to multiply out the first set of brackets. 3x times x. 3x times minus 1. Positive 1 times x. Remember, if you would multiply out the brackets slightly different, you go ahead and do that and just come back and check you get the same, okay? And positive 1 times minus 1. Now, you'll notice we've got another part here. Plus 2. 2 is to multiply by the second bracket. Plus 2x squared. And a positive 2 times a negative 5. Take away 10. Okay, final answer, collect any like terms. 3x squared plus 2 more x squared. So we have 5x squareds altogether. Negative 3x, remember the wee sign in front is what you have to do with it. Add on 1 more x, and there's no more x's there. So negative 3 add 1 leaves us with a negative 2x. We've got a minus 1 there and a minus 10. Remember, we're collecting on like terms. We're not multiplying or anything. Negative 1, take away 10 more. Take away 11, and that's your answer. Number 3, solve algebraically the system of equations. So we've got simultaneous equations, one equation above the other. The method that I use, and remember, go back and just double check if you use a slightly different method. Some teachers do, so don't worry, as long as you get the right answer and can show you're working. The method that I would use here is I'd be looking to get the y terms up to the same value. I've got a positive 5 at the top and a negative 2 at the bottom. If I take them both up to the same number, but one being a positive and one being a negative, then we can cancel them out by adding the equations, okay? So the method that I would use, I would be looking to take them both up to, well, what number does 5 and 2 both go into? 5 and 2 both go into 10, so I'd be looking to take them up to 10. To multiply the top, to make it up to a positive 10, we'll take the top one, 2, since it's a positive 5. I'm going to times it by 2. And the bottom equation, I'm going to make it up to a negative 10 by multiplying that one by 5. Okay, I'm going to write out my two new equations now. I would normally write them down the right hand side, but I'll take it over here and write them here. So multiply the full equation by 2. 8x plus 10y equals negative 6. Okay, and the bottom equation, multiplying fully through by 5, gives us 30x, take away 10y, is equal to, not 15, 5 5s is 25. Now remember, the whole point of writing it like this is because then we have positive 10, negative 10, we add up the equations and they will cancel out, because a positive cancels with a negative. Negative 10 add 10 is 0. Okay, if we add up these together, we've got 38x, okay, 8 add 30, add them together, 25 take away 6, or negative 6 add 25 is 19. And remember, this is a non-calculator paper, okay? Your numbers should work, okay? I can see that this works out all right, okay? We're doing 19 divided by the 38. Now, don't be picking up your calculator. You should be thinking you realise that 19 goes into 38 2 times. So if we simplify this, that is really just 1/2. Okay? In a non-calculator paper, the questions will always work, okay? Sometimes, obviously, in this case, we've got a decimal. Most times, they're whole numbers. If I had something like 38x equals 17 there, 17 and 38, clearly there's no connection. We would need to go back to the beginning. There's obviously a mistake. So this looks like it's working. Right, let's see. X is 1/2 then, or 0.5. How do we find y? We go back and sub it into one of our original equations. I'm going to go back to the one, if we can avoid a subtraction in the question, it makes it a wee bit easier. I'm going to go back and sub it into the 4x plus 5y is equal to negative 3. Okay, now I'm going to sub it in. So that's what x is. 4 times 1/2, remember, that's what 4x means. 4 times x, 4 times 1/2. Add 5y equals negative 3. 4 halves, 4 times 1/2 is 2. Add 5y equals negative 3. We want to find out what y is on its own. So we take the negative 3, and where does the 2 go? Yep, to the other side, and we subtract it. So what we have is 5y equals negative 5. And I can see these numbers work. It makes sense. How do you find y? You do negative 5 divided by 5. What would y be? 5 divided by 5 is 1. So negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. So the final answer is, you don't really need to write it out separately, but x is 1/2 and y equals negative 1. That's our two solutions. Okay, are our answers. Two vectors are given by u is this and u plus v is this. Okay, find vector v. Right, that's vector u there. That's what u add v is equal to. Okay, we don't know what v is, but if we know that we do this one, add something, it gives you this. Basically, if you know the u and you know u plus v, if you wanted v on its own, you're just going to take this one here. Now you're going to take that vector and you're going to subtract this one from it. And that'll leave you with vector v. You don't need to write out this working, okay? So we're going to take this one here, the one that's the u plus v, and we're going to take away vector u from it. Because if we do that, it'll leave us the numbers that are just representing vector v. 6 take 1 is 5. Negative 4 take, that's a 5 in the middle, isn't it? Negative 9. And 3 take 1 is 2. So that must be what vector v is. Okay? Solve. Remember, this is a non-calculator paper. This is a quadratic or a trinomial. So to solve this, you factorise, okay? If it was a paper 2 question, it's likely to say solve and give your answer to 1 or 2 decimal places, and you'd be looking to use the quadratic formula. However, not in this one. So we're factorising. The method is, and again, if you've done it slightly different with your teacher, just double check that you get the same answer. I'm looking for 2 numbers that multiply to the end, which is 2 numbers that multiply to positive 24. And the same 2 numbers need to add up to negative 11. So think at the end first, the positive 24. 2 numbers that multiply to positive 24. And please think of the signs. Positive 2 times positive 12, they multiply to positive 24. Do they add up to negative 11? No, they don't. Remember the negative numbers. Negative 2 times negative 12 also multiply to positive 24. Do they add up to negative 11? No, right? 2 and 12 is definitely not going to work. You should be working a wee step ahead of me and you should know what the answer is. 8 times 3 is 24. Positive 8 times positive 3 is positive 24. They don't add up to negative 11, but they do add up to positive 11. So, and again, remember, you don't need to write all this out. I'm just talking you through how quite often you might have to look at other options, okay? The 6 times 4 is also 24, so you might need to try out a few numbers. This is the one that's going to work here because they both multiply to negative 24 and they do together make negative 11 when you add them together. So that's as factorised. The question said solve, right? Solve means gets your solutions. It's not solved yet. Right, that was just a wee bit of working at the side for our factors. To get the solutions, what we do is we set each of the factors equal to 0. Take a mini equation, set each of factors equal to 0. But we need to solve it. If x take away 8 equals 0, x is 0 plus 8. You can actually just go straight away and write x equals 8. Okay, we don't really need to write 0 plus 8. And on this one, x would be 0 plus the 3 because you're moving the minus 3 across. X is 8 and x is 3. Okay, you must go on and do those final steps to get the values of x. Don't just leave it at the factorised form. Okay. Number 6, part of the graph of a cos bx is shown below. What are the values of a and b? Right, the number at the front, y equals, so this y equals a cos bx. The number at the front, the letter A, represents the amplitude. Basically thinking of it as, what does it go up to, what does it go down to, okay? It goes up to 5 and it goes down to negative 5. That tells us that the value of A is simply 5, okay? If it was going up to 2 and down to negative 2, A would be 2. The value of B is basically how many cos graphs are in 360. That's what I think of it as, okay? Do you know what a cos graph looks like? That's a cos... Oh, just ignore me. Nope, I'm drawing you a sine graph. Right, a cos graph. That's a cos graph, okay? And it ends at 360. That's your standard cos graph. Now, how many of these can you see that would be in 0 to 360 in this graph here? I'll draw them in. There's one. There's the second. It ends at 180. So letter B represents how many cos graphs would there be in 360? Right? Well, 180 is only half of 360. 360 would end here. So how many cos graphs? You don't even need to draw it out. I think most of you would have probably known. Yes, the value of B is actually 4. There's 2 cos graphs between 0 and 180 in the diagram. So there would be 4 in 360 rather. Okay, that's our answers there. A is 5 and B is 4. Number 7. Right, straight line graph. Find the equation of the line in terms of P and D. P is the pounds, D is the distance, and it works out the cost of a taxi journey. Right, okay. Find the equation of the line. It's mentioned find the equation of a line. As soon as it mentions that, you should be thinking y equals mx plus c. Now, I know it says find it in terms of P and D. I'm just going to do it with the x and the y, and we'll change at the end, okay? All these equations that I'm going to use in this question, none are given in the exam paper. Remember, m is the gradient. The gradient is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Right, difference in the y's over the difference in the x's. Now, where are the coordinates? The coordinates are points B and A on the diagram, but it tells you down here about the coordinates. Point A is 8 miles. D is a distance, that's 8 miles, so it's 8 along and 14 up. It tells you the values in the question. That's the first point. And the other coordinate of point B is 12 along, 12 miles and 20. So these are our values that we're going to use. It makes no difference which one is point 1 and which one is point 2. I'm going to call this x1, y1, and I'm going to call this x2, y2. Okay, and I'm going to sub them in the correct position in the equation. 20 take away 14 over 12 take away 8. 6 over 4 cancels down to 3 over 2 if you want. Okay, 3 over 2, or if you want 1.5, makes no difference. So that's our gradient. How do we get the c value? A couple of different ways. Doesn't matter which way you do it, as long as you do it properly. To get the c value, what I'm going to write down is the equation y equals 3 over 2x plus c. Okay, and I'm going to sub in one of the coordinates that we've been given. We know 8, 14. I'm going to sub that as my x, and that's my y. So 14 is equal to 3 over 2 times 8 plus c. 14 therefore is equal to 3 over 2 times 8. It doesn't matter which order you do that in. I'm going to do 3 times 8 divided by 2. 3 times 8 over 2. 24 over 2, it's 12 plus c. Basically that says 12 add c is 14. What's c then? 14 take away 12, c is 2. Okay, the question says, what's the equation? The equation is y equals mx plus c. 3 over 2x, we now know c, we now know m, but we need to use p and d. P is on the y-axis and d is on the x-axis, so we're just going to put the letters in the right place. So p equals, and it's a capital letter P, 3 over 2, wee letter d, plus 2. That's this. Okay, now going on to part B, usually it says use your answer. Oh, oops, I must have missed part B. Right, don't worry. Number 8, determine the nature of the roots of this equation. Nature of the roots, you should be thinking this is related to one of your formulas. It's on the formula list. You should probably know what formula I'm talking about, but just in case you didn't know, it's the quadratic formula, the very, very top formula on the formula list. That one there. Right, something to do with this here. It's the bit underneath the square root, the bit that we call the discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac. So we're using b squared minus 4ac. Now what do we do with the b squared minus 4ac? What is a, b and c? A, b and c, just like the quadratic formula, a is 2, b is 4, and c is 5. And we're subbing the numbers into b squared minus 4ac. 4 squared, take away. 4ac means 4 times a times c. Put the numbers in. 4 squared, 16, take away. 4 times 2 times 5, non-calculator, remember. 4 twos are 8 times 5 is 40. Okay, 16 take away 40 is negative 24. It's not finished though. Okay, what we need to say is what this actually means. Now, be very careful. The invigilators, the examiners are pretty strict about what you say here. B squared minus 4ac, you compare it with 0. It's less than 0. What does that mean? So because b squared is minus 4ac is less than 0, it means that there are what? no real roots. Make sure you use the word real in the question. Make sure you use the word roots in the question. Right, there's no real roots. Let's see, number 9. A regular decagon, so we've got a 10-sided shape there. Let's see, angle 17. Calculate the shaded angle, the one there in the picture. Right, okay, let's have a wee go at that. Right, first thing I'm going to do is, because it tells us it's a 10-sided shape, all of these angles here in the middle are the same size, and there's 10 of them. So if there's 10 of them, 360 divided by 10, because the full circle in the middle would be 360. So each wee one is 36, so that's 36 in there, okay? And now I suppose there's a couple of ways we can do this. Okay, I'm now basically thinking of it as an individual triangle, okay? And that's 36 in the middle. Because it's a decagon, these two sides here, these are the same size. Okay, these are isosceles triangles. Now, if they're the same size, what does that tell you about the two angles at the bottom? They're the same size. Okay, how do I work them out? All three in a triangle add up to 180. So I'm going to do 180, take away 36, which gives me 144. Now, because they're both the same, 144 divided by 2, they are 72 degrees each. So this is 72, this is 72. In fact, they're all 72. Every single one around that edge is 72. Now, you're probably wondering, where is this going? It's quite a complicated one, okay? How do I find the shaded angle? I'm going to change the pen colour because I think this will help. Right, these all together make 180. Two of them, I've just put them in as both 72. So if 72 and 72 and this one in here make 180, how do I find that one? Well, 180, take away the two 72s, which gives me 36. So that's 36. Okay, how do I find this one? There's a few ways you could have done this question, to be honest. To find the shaded angle in the picture, 180, take away the two angles that you know, take away 36 and 17. Remember, it's non-calculated. The numbers shouldn't be too difficult though. 36 and 17 make what, 53? Take it away from 180 is 123. 7. Just testing. Degrees. Okay, this will be the last one. Right, 10, 7 cos z. Right, okay, we know this one here. Calculate the length of xy. I'll call it x, that's the one we're looking for. Now, we're mentioning angles and sides here, so this looks a bit like trigonometry, so let's bring up our formulas. Oops, oh jeez. Ignore me. Oh no, what have I done? Oh gosh. Right. It's one of those days. Right, there's my sine and cosine rule. There we go. Sine or cosine rule. Can we use the sine rule? Do we have an angle and a side across from each other, which we know? No, we don't. We know this angle here. We know its cos of the angle is 1/8. We don't have a side opposite it. We know it's just side x. That's the one we're trying to find. So we can't actually use the sine rule. It's the cosine rule we're going to have to use. Now, you're probably sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, how can we do that with a non-calculator paper? Remember, they have deliberately picked numbers that are going to work, okay? B squared and C squared, they're your two sides. Doesn't matter which is which. Take away 2bc cos A, 2 times 10 times 8 times cos A. Now, okay, cos A, is cos of the angle. Cos of the angle is an eighth, not cos of an eighth. It's just an eighth. Okay? 10 squared. 8 squared. Be careful. Take away. 2 times 10 times 8 times an eighth. You can multiply that in any order you want. 8 times an eighth, the end bit. 8 times an eighth is just 1. 8 times an eighth is 1. So really what you've got is 2 times 10 times 1. It is really just 20. So altogether we've got 144. Now remember this formula says a squared equals. So if we've got a squared equals 144, we don't leave it like that. A is the square root of 144. A is actually 12. And I suppose we're not really saying A, we're saying side x or xy. But 12, put the units in, centimetres. Okay, I'm going to put up the screenshots for it. You try the questions and let me know how you got on. Right, good luck.